So thank you, CF, again for the interesting lecture. So just to follow up on the key points that you've made, I've just asked a few questions. One of the things that you mentioned, that the burning issue for finance that to help organizations is to help them to either reduce their costs or to leverage on new technologies or to think of redeploying, right, to add value. Can you just give us one or two examples in your experience of either of these things happening in your organization or those that you consult for?
Okay. COVID-19, it affects the supply and demand at the same time. So a lot of companies, our industry, just like any other companies, are also affected. So finance accounting will be the first department that the business turn into to ask you, oh, can you suggest some opportunity to reduce the costs? So we've been looking at the P&L every month, every year. So from there, we identify opportunities. So from there, identify opportunities. These are only the first step. Identifying the opportunities and speaking to the business people. And then from there, getting their inputs and working hand in hand with them. What works and what doesn't work. That is the second part. So eventually, identifying cost reduction is what almost every function, almost everybody expect finance accounting people to do. Right, this is first. Second, what was the second thing?
About leveraging new technologies to improve the analysis.
Okay. There are two dimensions to this. The first thing is people want the reports to be generated automatically and quickly. Like after month end, you know, all the big companies, they close their book from 2 to 4 working days, and nobody can wait. Everybody wants you quickly. So we faced 10 over years ago when we started the digitization journey. Our monthly reporting was also quite late. Traditional method, using Excel, using step-by-step approach. So we have to move forward. We have to be in line with the market. So we went out to look for software that can help us. And from those software, we see whether can we use the software into changing our business process and to speed up that process. So the first dimension of using technology is actually to speed up the routine work. Once your routine work is speed up, the resources that you free up can be invested into analytics. Analytics are things that now are very fanciful. It can be AI, machine learning. Our recent IBM business intelligence software, IBM has just upgraded into machine learning. That means our routine reports that goes into the business intelligence software, the machine kind of started to learn, you know, it's not fanciful like, wow, you see in a movie, you know, it just started to learn. Let's say the user keep requesting for this type of reports. The machine is able to say, oh, do you want to see this kind of reports, to see how they can automatically generate for you and email it to you, you know, that kind of machine learning. And also we can use that machine learning to say, oh, we always use this, study this trend. Let's say this customer, they are different SKU, they are different products. How do they sell across a 12 months period? In the past, all this data are, you know, you download from your ERP system, you put it on an Excel, then you draw your own chart. So with the new business intelligence software, once you post there, with a little bit of machine learning features, the software is able to know that, oh, you keep using these, finding out these trends. So they will make some recommendation. Are you interested to see this, see that? No, it works exactly like YouTube, you know, if you keep watching soccer, English Premier League, then after that, they'll keep pushing some of these recommendations to you. So the new IBM Business Intelligence software, I'm not selling for them, for your information, we're a user. So they are doing something similar to YouTube. So they call this machine learning, which in fact, yeah, machine helps you to look at it. So two dimensions. One is to quickly free up resources so you can invest into analytics. Second is using the machine learning part to further automate and to see greater business analytics.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's very interesting. And it's the same message that the video you shared with us also illustrated. which leads to the question I have, speaking on behalf of young professionals who will worry that, first of all, they become more, redundant in the sense of the processes that can be automated, right, which is automation. So that is done. And then now you're beginning to say they begin to learn, right, which is kind of the next step. So as the robotics and AI keep evolving, the question is there going to be a job for someone who starts learning or coming to the BAc program at NTU today? Or should they go and study analytics, right? Which is a question we have to kind of answer for the young accountants among us.
Okay.
So what is your take on that?
Okay, because I also sit on one of the Hong Kong University, the advisory committee. So they asked me how should they plan for next year curriculum. So I've been seeing those fresh graduates that we recruit every year. They've all started to learn macro programming as an accounting profession. They started to learn this knowledge in the university. So now when I recruit them, they're able to help me to do some simulations, like bank reconciliation. It used to be you match check by check. So now my trainee who just graduated, they're able to write macro to help me to automate the bank reconciliation process. The as long as number, the check number, the formula, the Excel formula can actually search for that check, and then that actually automates our bank reconciliation process, which sometimes it can be a huge, before automation is a huge tedious work. If you have a lot of transaction every month, the person who does it every month has to check, make sure all the checks are being cleared and unpresented or deposit, all that from different customer, different suppliers, all that can be a messy work. So these fresh graduates that came in and write macro, I think this is something that I hope our next generation of accountant, not only the technical part, but IT and a bit of programming, they should be able to do it. Or else, as we go along, it's very difficult. Now you talk about a lot of business intelligence, bring your own device. Most of the softwares are becoming very, very user-friendly, drag and drop. But there are some which still requires a little bit of programming logic, understanding that. So moving forward, I would encourage young accountancy graduates to at least know some programming language. That will really help your career. For me to learn the programming language, I find that it's quite an uphill task. No excuse. I should force myself, but it's quite an uphill task. But if I'm like 20 years younger, I think this should be a compulsory stuff to learn.
Yeah, thank you for that good advice, CF. So maybe now we move on to the other end of the continuum. You have become a CFO yourself, and the journey, as you said, takes 20 years or more. Maybe just let's get a bit more personable since you are alumni. Would you share with us your journey to becoming a CFO, and if you had to change something, or what did you learn from this journey, or what would you change, if any?
So many.
Or whichever you can just pick, whichever
along the way.
resonates with you.
I also started off in the Big Four, and I realized people don't really have to go to Big Four. If they can go to very good companies that are able to give them rotation into the various functions. There's one chart I show. You need to have all this functional area before you can take on the job. Auditing is very good. They give you audit experience and some accounting standard compliance, but they don't teach you how to be a business person. If you want to be a CFO, you have to be a business person. And looking back, when I first started off, I did not focus so much on the business side of issues. So I hope when I graduate again, if I have to live the past 20 years, the first thing I not only pick up the technical part, I must also pick up the business rationale, why the business are doing certain things that way. And then keep asking myself, is there a better way to do something? It's through this exercise that I pick up the business acumen. When they look for a CFO, they look for more senior people. You must be able to give a lot of business advice. They come and ask you, should we buy or rent? Oh, we are having this tight cash flow. So what should we do? Traditionally, you can just go to look at balance sheet or which are the asset, maybe, non-core asset, maybe you can liquidate at a good price or, or go to the banks to ask for financing. But that is a traditional accountant way. To me, I learned it the hard way. If you want to be a very successful CFO, you got to learn the business acumen. You got to learn strategy. You got to learn a business model. Because going out to the banks to negotiate, sometimes the treasury people can do it. You just say, hey, we need funding. You just go and approach bank. We need a syndicated loan. Get all these banks together and piece up a financing for us, 3 years. Those people it's just an execution, very very execution. But if you understand business model and the value creation process, then you can participate in the strategy part of the business. Let's say the business always been doing on the mid-price market segment, then your value adding will be, are we able to analyze what it takes with our company resources now to move from the mid-price to maybe a high or mid-high segment? Look at competitors, what have they done? What are the criteria that makes us have that competitive advantage to move into this area? You must be able to give this kind of input way on top of the finance figure. Of course, at the back of your mind, you have to know the numbers very hard. People ask you, this our cost structure is this. Compared to that company, maybe we can do this, we can't do that because of certain factors, or unless we have to build up a team or what, If you are able to give business input based on company's business model, value creation, then I think you really go far, because these are the things that no computer, no AI, no machine learning can replace.
Thank you for that advice as well from your own personal experience. So I'm sure the students will find that helpful. You mentioned in your presentation that one of the critical roles of accounting or the finance is really on performance management, right, which is key. And given all the changes that we see and which you have also shared about the finance models that are new, the finance talent that we recruit today is different. How does that affect how you do performance measurement or performance management as well as control? How do you control this talent when they're quite different, right, from the traditional or the past sort of models that we're used to? Is there any change in that? What challenges do you face?
Okay, for those who graduated or fresh from school comes in, normally they're very receptive. You just tell them performance measurement, how do you do it, or think of ideas to improve. They're all very keen and very enthusiastic. They always give very good value pointers for us. But for those who are in the company for quite some time, you need to bring them on board. Most of them, they're very comfortable with where they are. And if you ask them to stretch and, you have always been producing ABC report. No, from ABC report, how does it link to the value creation of our business? How do you give forward pointing pointers? How do you say, we have been doing this for a couple of years and we'll be receiving these results. How can we do things differently to capture a bigger market share? What are promotion activities that we did well previously that we can continue to do that can expand our market share? A lot of people are looking at all this insight. These are performance management. Performance management not only on the sales market share side, the resources that we use to support this is also quite important. And this resources is not only finance and accounting, it goes into the entire supply chain of the company. So where can we see the value creation? Where can we see which area we have to put in more resources or which area we have to put in less resources, more efficient, to make sure that we capture more of the market? So we need to convince these people. We need to tell them what is in the market, what is the state of the art, or what other competitors are doing in the market, and slowly bring them on board that they just do ABC report is not enough. They have to move beyond that. And you start them very small, ask them to take small steps first. And also for us, we improve that business acumen by asking our people to arrange with different supply chain, get them to brief, what is the key value adding role of that supply chain, let's say sales and marketing, production, R&D, ask them to explain how do they add value to the business. Let our people understand more. And you realize that once you train them, once you let them understand more, they feel more confident, and they are starting to give more forward-pointing numbers way beyond the numbers that they generate. So we are seeing all this giving us more positive returns.
That's great. One of the points you mentioned is the advent of real-time information, right? And so that the users can get their own reports and much quicker and so forth. And one of the sacred cows that we keep teaching in accounting courses is budgeting and planning, right? How important that is. So how has budgeting actually changed or should change in your companies and industry? Is it still useful, right, in this context when things are moving so quickly and they can get the reports, you'll get outdated. So how do we respond to that?
Okay, budgeting and forecast is always necessary because budgeting and forecasting is a yardstick you use to control the business. Budgeting, normally you do it once a year because for us, budgeting process is a business planning process.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody gets involved. Every single functions get involved. They plan next year. And a lot of companies, they do a 3-year projection, what they want to achieve in the next 3 years. From there, we piece up the rest of the supply chain, the rest of the costs that can be used to support these activities. So budgeting will set the yardstick where we measure our strategy and our performance. Forecasting is more on a rolling basis. You set your budget once a year, and then forecasting, you keep forecasting every month what's going to happen in the next 3 to 6 months. You know, are you still in line with budget compared to last year, or that, you know, those are a dimension. Now, the real-time business, not right now, I want to say that it's not every single thing can be real-time. Now, the ERP capturing of transaction is real-time. Anytime you have a transaction, it gets captured. We are using a lot of what we call CRM, customer relationship management, those software in the market, piece them into our business intelligence to generate those reports. Let's say we have a lot of retail sales in a certain products. So that certain products, when it gets captured in the market, we use the CRM software to capture into our business intelligence software to run a lot of business analytics report that you can read over your iPad, your iPhone, and from there you can see daily performance, even up to, you know, anytime you refresh. You just set in the computer, you know, you refresh once every morning, lunchtime, all that. So every time you just refresh, you can see how you're performing versus last year, versus whatever time period you can set for yourself. So that part is a real time. When it comes to P&L, you know, not every time that the accounting department managed to capture and post all this entry into the system. So when you talk about expenses, it's still not real time per se, but the sales, margins, all that is becoming real time. So there's still a gap. When this gap is going to be bridged, there also needs to be software to help, and also business process changes before we can capture expenses real time and probably work towards a real-time profit and loss and balance sheet. We're still some gap away from that.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm glad you said that. Otherwise, the students won't listen when we teach them about budgeting and planning. So
Really?
maybe a final question for you, since you also shared with us a bit about COVID-19. I don't know what the situation is in Hong Kong, but in Singapore and I think a lot of parts of the world, a lot of people are beginning to work at home at least some of the time, if not all the time. Do you see that posing any challenge to accounting functions or to management control in the sense of evaluating the performance of an employee that is not in so-called in the office on site? Do you foresee that as changing anything?
No, I don't foresee that. I think different functions, those processing, if they are still processing hard copy of invoices, we still ask them to come back to office as of now. Those more on analytics, so that they have an option whether they come, because they can download all this report, they do it on their computer and then they upload, and anybody can download from there. So that one we don't really ask them to come back. But for team building purpose, if we have team member coming back, we try to encourage the rest of them to come back, so everybody sits in the same environment. The interactions, the social interaction part is still important for us. Right? That's what I think.
Yeah. Thank you. I think that's what we're finding is the social interaction, right? The business can be done, but the human touch is missing. Okay, with that, maybe any final words for our students or any aspiring CFOs out there? Final words from UCF.
Okay, your career is like pushing a piece of big rock over a mountain. So when you start off, you're at the bottom of the hill. You try to push that rocks, right? Hell of a lot of effort. You have to keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. Then one day, you hit the summit of that hill, and then after that, things will be downhill. So a lot of people, some of my peers, in the process of pushing up that rock, some decided, oh, I didn't want to push this piece of rock. Maybe I want to go to another area that I don't have to push such a heavy pieces of rock. But some people say, hey, this piece of rock is not that heavy. I have a lot of interest, a lot of passion. I can keep pushing it, and they go over the hill, and things become a lot easier. So I would say perseverance and learning from mentor. Find a mentor. Even I myself, I have a mentor up to now, this day. That mentor, it used to be Steve Jobs. I look at his video on YouTube, very inspirational. Steve Basil on Amazon. I know some of you doesn't like Elon Musk or Tesla. I like his unconventional thinking. They're all huge source of inspiration for me. So I would say at different stage of your career, always look for a mentor, somebody that can inspire you.
Great. Thank you for those words of wisdom from our successful alumni. I'm sure you'll be getting many requests for connections and perhaps being a mentor to some of our young ones.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for taking our time out to speak to us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.